Hello everyone, my name is Ashley, and today we will be discussing whether or not school-wide positive behavior support is an application of applied behavior analysis. This is because some view positive behavior support as watered-down ABA with maybe using some of the same core principles, while others say that it is very different from ABA and maybe even be in conflict with that. Today discussing this issue will be Christy, who will present the key points as to why positive behavior support and ABA are the same. Say hi, Christy.
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Christy Newborn.
And then we have Kaylin, who will talk about the differences between ABA and positive behavior support.
Hello, everyone.
And then there's Celia, who will discuss how positive behavior support can benefit everyone in the school system.
Hi, everyone.
And then there's Savannah, who will present how positive behavior support does not apply to everyone, and there also may even be some disadvantages as to using positive behavior support in the school system.
Oh.
So what is positive behavior support? It is simply the use of certain strategies to increase social and individualized learning in the school system, as well as decreasing problem behaviors. Sounds very similar to ABA, doesn't it? So let's begin with Christy, who will discuss how are positive behavior support and ABA the same in terms of implementation of the interventions.
Okay, according to Carr 2002, he states that positive behavior support is a new science. However, it has evolved from applied behavior analysis. In our research and studies, we found out that both ABA and positive behavior support both use evidence-based interventions and treatments. They use to determine which interventions and treatments to use. They use universal screenings and functional assessments. They use continuous monitoring program to and collect data to see where the individuals are. They also use data collection and team-based work to meet fidelity of the treatment. Both programs also focus on changing social significant behaviors. That really sounds just like ABA. That's what our main focus is on. And the use of antecedent strategies to prevent the problem behaviors. So with that being said, I am debating that both SWPBS and ABA go hand in hand. They are very much alike.
Thank you, Christy. Now, Kaylin, even though positive behavior support may be an emerging science and draws its concepts from ABA, can you explain to us how the two may be very different?
Yeah, of course. So the following points have been made from research about school-wide positive behavior support and ABA. And ABA has the most interventions for the most support with students with autism spectrum disorders. Although school-wide positive behavior support is fundamentally drawn from ABA, it also has been noted from research that it has emerged from other key areas as well. School-wide positive behavior support has emerged from normalization and inclusion movement and also included the core principles of person-centered values. So there are other emerging principles that it takes in for its values. ABA is usually rather implemented to change the behavior of one individual, whereas school-wide positive behavior support focuses on intervention from a three-tier process. And right now I want to show everybody a visual that shows the three-tier process. So as you can see, the three-tier process shows a primary prevention, which is school-wide for all students, staff, and settings, which is the majority of students, 80%. And then also a secondary prevention, which is more specialized for groups of students with at-risk behavior. And then we finally get to the tertiary prevention, which is for specialized, individualized students, which is probably where you would find some students on the spectrum. All right. Stated by a study done by Carr, school-wide positive behavior support has been described in a positive outlook, such as flexible and proactive, where ABA has gotten a negative outlook and has been described as traditional. School-wide positive behavior support has a new outlook rather than taking a traditional approach like ABA has taken on. ABA researchers have been critical of positive behavior support due to having similar principles. Studies have shown that there have been insignificant training with competence, and also positive behavior support has shown a weak scientific attachment.
Thank you, Kaylin. Now, Christy, can you provide an example of how maybe ABA has been used for groups of people that Kaylin had mentioned, and also for children diagnosed with autism?
Sorry, say that again.
Can you provide an example of how ABA has been used for like a group of people that Kaylin had mentioned, and then also how ABA is used for children diagnosed with autism?
Yes. Hold on. I will show you a visual that I have that from a local school that I worked in, how the school came up or as a team to work with, to implement interventions for all the children. Bear with me. As Caitlin has stated, that there are 3 tiers. The first tier is the primary prevention, where most of the children, majority of the children, are in this group. And then you have those that are in the secondary specialized group that are at risk. They're not what you would say your typical or functioning like your typical child, but they're at risk, but not to the severe level of your high-risk children. And of course, your high-risk children would be those with the special needs, our autism children, and with the high risk, it's usually individualized, one-on-one, so the interventions are elaborated more in a one-on-one setting, whereas the secondary may be in a group setting, smaller group setting, and the primary is universal, like the majority of the students are able to participate or in that intervention. It is very important that both ABA and SWPBS revolve around a team. It takes a team to make any of these interventions work, because if you only are striving to do an intervention in one setting or with one person, it's not going to make the intervention successful, and they're not going to be able to carry it on, which throughout their daily lives. That's what we're trying to achieve, maintenance, and for them to be able to carry it on to succeed throughout their lives. And after the team has after the team at this particular school established what they wanted to focus on. One of the rules was, or the interventions was, the safety rules, and it was how the children, all children throughout the school, whether disabled or not disabled, could be safe in school. So here is a list of the criteria that the team, or the rules that the team put into place, whereas the cafeteria, what is expected in the cafeteria, bathroom, and on the playground. And most all of these state that the children should walk and no run, do not run. They should keep their hands, feet to themselves, and as well as in the cafeteria, keep their food and objects to themselves and sit in an assigned area. And as far as the bathroom, one individual in a stall at a time, and make sure that they properly wash their hands and line up on the wall until everyone else has completed toileting. But on the playground area, it specifies that the walking and running to and from the playground, keeping your hands and feet to yourself, playing in a designated area. And so these treatment and interventions can be applied to all students, not just typical students, but it can be reinforced for everyone. And those that have more challenges or more difficult in the area, as we stated, can have a group treatment, or those that are severely need help, they can be one-on-one, trained one-on-one. These are pictures and examples of how the students should walk in the hallways, whether they're going to the bathroom, cafeteria, or the playground. No one is touching each other. Their hands are down, and they're walking quietly. And here is the sign for the restroom: girls and boys, and one child at a time. And in the cafeteria, they're sitting in their assigned seats. Everyone is eating their own individual lunches. And that's a good picture of a safety rule in the cafeteria. And then on the playground, everybody is having fun. Their hands are to themselves, feet are to themselves, and they're just being kids and having a really good time. So once these behaviors have been achieved, reward systems of positive reinforcement is given to the children based on their success of the behaviors, and the positive reinforcement that the school implemented was movie day and popcorn. That is my example.
Thank you, Christy. So it is evident that the two positive behavior support and ABA do share significant similarities. However, Christy mentioned that both thrive off of teamwork and working together. So how can positive behavior support and ABA, how do these two maybe create conflict or tension in both fields?
Yeah, I can touch on that. Well, if they're not on the same page, it definitely creates a diversion, because a lot of educators, some working in a school setting, I can see that some educators are using ABA and some are using positive behavior support. And when you're in the same school setting, it can get very confusing for the kids. It can get very confusing for the staff to know which to implement. And as we can see in that visual aid, 80% of students would be in the primary intervention for school-wide positive behavior support. And if a child on the autism spectrum who's getting ABA therapy can't participate in the school-wide positive behavior support, then they would have to fall in a different category for positive behavior support, which can cause a lot of tension for all school members. So it really creates diversion, it divides up resources, and it also can cause confusion for the school.
Awesome, Caitlin. So even though positive behavior support may be in conflict with ABA, should it still be implemented in the school system, and can it still be beneficial to the students? Either Christy or Caitlin, would either one of you want to touch on that?
I think like with any intervention, it's individualized and based on what's going on at the school, or the, either one can be utilized. Since ABA does more one-on-one, I believe that the SWPBS could be utilized in the school system because they have so many children, and they need rule. All children needs rules. So I would say that it would be okay to use SWPBS.
And also, I'll also touch on that. I think that I can see both sides, but I also think that I read a study from CAR in 2008 that said that a lot of children on the autism spectrum really struggle with positive behavior support just due to being put in the wrong category of positive behavior support. They're put into the primary category and just really struggle with their behaviors, and teachers see an increase in behaviors. So I think it really depends on the child and depends on the school. But as for that, I do still think that there's a little conflict between the two, but a lot of schools and educators really need to come together to not create that diversion.
Thank you. Celia, what are your thoughts about positive behavior support and its implementation into the school system? Is it beneficial to the students, or is it similar to ABA?
Well, actually, I actually think I think it's both. I think it is beneficial to the students, and I also do think it's very similar to ABA. Many argue that school-wide positive behavioral support can only be used for individuals with disabilities. However, SWPBS has been shown to improve behavior, problem behavior in both typical and atypical individuals. In fact, many positive outcomes have come about from SWPBS. According to Bradshaw and Palmer 2008, SWPBS has been shown to reduce rates of office disciplinary referrals, detention, and suspension while increasing the overall student success level. Schools who implement this framework teach their students behavioral expectations in the school settings, and they're reinforced for their good behaviors. Now, though some may argue or disagree and think that that the reinforcements may take from school funding, a lot of the times schools actually avoid using money for reinforcements by using freebies. So they'll just basically use, they'll give students rewards or incentives, or they'll reinforce them for good behavior by giving them tickets to a school event, such as a school play or a sports game or prom or homecoming or a concert or something. They might get access to a free parking spot if for the older students in high schools. They might be able to have a game day where if the whole grade, if the whole 12th or 11th grade has done an amazing job and their numbers has changed, they'll take a day where it's just a game day, and they'll have different sports activities or field day. Some have also used grades. If students receive a higher grade, whether it's an A or B, they're able to get a free lunch pass so that they can go to the front of the line and avoid having to stand in line. So there are many ways that schools can use other resources to be able to reward these students without having to dip into their school fundings. Now, according to Harner 2014, there's over 21,000 elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools who have already implemented SWPBS. Illinois actually has 45% of their schools implement SWPBS, and the numbers continue to grow. In 2006, actually, there were only 8 high schools implementing SWPBS, and that number jumped to 200 in 2013. And in Kansas, schools in Kansas, schools who implemented SWPBS have also increased. And I have a graph to show. Give me a second. I'm sorry. That you can see. Where you can see the school districts have also increased. So in 2005, for Kansas City, the numbers were at 1. There was only 1 school district implementing SWBP. However, in 2009, 2008, that number jumped to 7. So there were 7 school districts implementing SWPBS. And then also more schools started to implement trainings for implementing SWPBS. And you can see here in 2005, it was below 10, and then that number started to, just increase and drastically jump to 50 in 2008. So as you can see, the numbers are increasing, and more schools are starting to use. Sorry, let me just stop sharing this. Are starting to use SWPBS because of how effective it has been. Sorry. But that's not all. More and more internal coaches are participating in implementing it as well, which shows that, that as schools are beginning to use this framework, it is becoming more effective to students and to the school overall. Now, there are 3 different levels of school-wide positive behavior, which I believe Kaylin had touched on a little bit. Now, the first level involves the primary intervention, or also known as the universal level. And this is designed to meet the needs of most students and are provided to all students. This level of intervention is implemented in approximately 80% to 90% of the school population, which you guys saw in the chart that Christy provided to you guys. Then there's the secondary intervention level, and this targets individuals who are not responsive to the first one. So it might target specialized intervention, more children who may have disabilities, also children who don't have disabilities, but are having who are engaging in more serious problem behavior. And this level of intervention is implemented on approximately 5% to 10% of the school population. Lastly, there's the sorry, I have a hard time saying this, tertiary intervention. And this intervention is implemented on individuals who are persistent behaviors, and this is more so targeted on those children who are on the spectrum, or who definitely do have a disability issue. And this is implemented approximately on 1% to 5% of the school population. And now I know it's important, and people must realize that school-wide positive behavior intervention support takes time. Some argue that it's not effective because of the length it takes, but in anything that you do, it's always going to take time for you to become perfect at it. And so this means that teachers, school staffs, and school personnel must work together to ensure that everyone is receiving the proper training and making the effort. And as long as everyone's making the effort, then it will be very effective in the school setting, and it can be very beneficial to the students and help them overall, and not just in school, but in outside life. So as long as teachers, school staff, and districts personnel put in their time and effort, the program could be proven to be very successful to all students, and not just students on an IEP or with disability.
Thank you, Celia. Tavana, She touched on the use of positive behavior support among all students and how it is very beneficial. Can you discuss why we might not want to use it in the school system? So, Vanna, are you there? Savannah, can you hear us? Okay, we will move on to Celia, and we'll talk about how positive behavior support is applied to all students. Can you give us an example about that?
Yeah, actually, before moving to Florida, I actually interned at a school, a public school in New York, and they had someone who knew about the ABA and the SWPB system and the framework, and there was a problem that was going on in the school. A lot of the students were complaining about bullying and being picked on, especially in the sixth grade area, and so the school staff decided to come together and try to see how effective this SWPBS was. And so what they basically did was they sat down and they created the 4 Bs, which was being safe, being respectful, being responsible, and being caring to others. And they implemented that on the fifth and sixth graders because they started to see how the sixth graders were kind of picking on and bullying the fifth graders. So what they first did was that they created signs and they posted the signs throughout the schools and in classrooms and in cafeterias and in the bathrooms, um, so that the kids can see what it meant to be safe and what it meant to be responsible and being kind and being respectful to others and caring. So the first week basically involved the students going to different classrooms. Each teacher was assigned a different area. So one teacher was assigned, for example, she was in charge of talking about being safe, and another teacher was responsible for talking about being respectful, and so on and so on. And so the children went from different classrooms, and they learned about the behavioral expectation of this. Of the school and how bullying is not okay. Then after they spoke about that, they ended up doing role playing. So the students actually got to see how it felt to be on the other end of it, and how it felt to be being picked on. Um, Next, after that, the students were reinforced with things, which I think helped a lot. I think the fact that children were being reinforced for good behaviors, they were able to see how the teachers were able to see how effective this was. So students received front of the line passes, and then at the end of the month, the grade that had the most success rate got a movie day and a pizza. So it was very effective. I mean, it decreased bullying in the school system. Unfortunately, I didn't get to fully stay to the end of the year because, like I said, it was my internship for my school. But while I was there, I got to see how effective it was, and I got to experience a little bit of it, which I thought was a pretty cool concept. I'm sorry, Ashley.
No, go
I
ahead.
also have a video that I wanted to show you that also talks about how effective it has been. I'll show the video, just a little glimpse of it.
Johnson Elementary School presents PBIS Expectations. Hallway.
So as you can see, sorry. So as you can see, I mean, the students are taught expectations, how to behave, how not to behave, the right way of doing things, the inappropriate way of doing things. And for every time they behave in an appropriate manner, they're rewarded, they're reinforced for this behavior, which increases the behavior in the school overall and in the student as well.
Thank you. Savannah, are you with us yet? Okay. I think her main points were going to be talking about how staff can be untrained and it also takes a long time to implement into the school system. Does anyone have anything to say about those points, or should we just move on?
Ashley, I can jump in for a couple points.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So just after watching that video, I work in a special education school specifically with kids with autism, and I can tell you that if that was implemented, it would take a long time for some of my kids to understand the rules and expectations. So I really think that the main difference is the time frame. Like ABA, you can start right away, implement the rules, and they learn the expectations. Whereas with school-wide positive behavior support, it's going to take the kids who need the extra support a long time to learn, and during that time frame it could cause a lot more behaviors, an increase in behaviors, new behaviors. They could model some of the other behaviors that they're seeing. So I think it could have negative effect, but also a positive effect because they see other kids doing good behaviors and then get rewarded and want the same social interaction as those kids.
And I think I can add some points on that as well. Um, I know that there's been some that say, with the training, there's some staff who are not fully invested in the training, or there's some school fundings that can't provide the training to the teachers. So the teachers are trying to implement a system that they know nothing about, and there's no training to provide them on that. So I think training staff is also something that is that makes it hard for SWPBS to be effective in a school system. Um, so I think those are like kind of like Caitlin said, and like I added on. I think those are two main things that make it really tough and difficult to make it a very effective framework to use.
Okay, so overall, should positive behavior support be considered a part of ABA, or should it be separated and remain different?
Well, I can speak on that. I think, since I argue that they are go hand in hand, I think looking at the video with the typical children, that how they were able to learn the behavior appropriately in a faster manner than what Caitlin said, a disabled or autistic children. I think if in combination, if we could use both of them hand in hand, uh, I think they both could be utilized at some point, because I was thinking about, as I was watching the video, with children that I have worked with to teach them how to go to the bathroom in a group, to be in a line. Visual schedules for them have really helped. And by adding that approach, one of the evidence-based practices of ABA along with SWPBS helped the child tremendously. He knew when it was time to check his schedule, that it was time to line up with his peers, and the peer modeling of getting in a line, putting their hands down, and waiting to go to the bathroom. So I think both of them can be implemented together, that they don't have to be separated, that once someone is well trained in both areas, that the children can succeed, and that the positive reinforcement works so well. Once they are praised and are even given a tangible for achieving the goal, you see amazing results from using both interventions.
Awesome. So I think overall, our group has agreed that PBS and ABA are both very beneficial to students, and that positive behavior support can just be considered more of a watered down version of ABA, but that it also should remain in the school system and maybe work for unison in both fields. Just what it is, that positive behavior support is ABA, and can promote more positive outlook and growth in both fields. So there's a few questions that we have from our audience. The first one is, what determines if practices are evidence-based? And Christy, I know that you touched on this in your argument, so would you like to answer that question?
Yes, of course I would. Evidence-based practices, as we've learned through the courses and through this course 619, is simply it's practices that are able to stand up to scientific scrutiny, and have been reviewed by peer reviews. Um, as we have learned in our studies and in our courses, that once we do our research, we have to get evidence peer-reviewed articles, and those are ones that has been followed and examined by other professionals, and reviewed to distinguish between if it is a scientific based or evidence based versus I'm just trying this at home and see if it's going to work type situation. And then the second thing that an evidence-based practice has to be clear, have a very clear demonstration of the experimental controls. So it has to have data collection, proper data collection, and the experimental control has to prove what the person is trying to achieve or accomplish to be considered evidence-based.
Perfect. And I'm not sure about our time limit, so we'll just go ahead and ask one last question. It's for Celia. And can you touch on the overall success of positive behavior support in the school system?
I'm sorry, Ashley, can you just repeat that question?
Yeah. Can you touch on the overall success of the positive behavior support used in the school system?
Yes, the overall success is, it's kind of difficult to kind of give a general overall, just because it's a new framework, a new science that's been provided. There isn't much information, there isn't much data that that shows the overall success rate in the United States. There has been data that's been shown for individual states that show their success rate. So, for example, like I said earlier, for Kansas City and Illinois, that shows the school district. It shows how the school districts have jumped from 2005, it being just only one school district that was implementing this framework, implementing SWPBS. To in 2009 jumping to now 8 school districts applying them. As far as well as the numbers in Illinois has went up. It went up from schools implementing, only having 8 high schools implementing SWPBS in 2006 to now having 200 schools implementing SWPBS in 2013. And again, this is just in 2013. We're in 2016, so I'm sure the numbers have increased even more. So, there's more and more school districts and more schools that are starting to become, are starting to implement PBS. So, I think overall it is very successful. And again, I do apologize. It was very hard to find an overall chart that showed a timeline and the effects of it and how successful it can be throughout the United States. But I think as it continues to grow and it continues to increase, I think we will be able to provide that in the next few years and show how different states have implemented it and how it has increased drastically throughout the years.
Thank you, Celia, and thank you everyone for watching our debate. I hope you enjoyed it.